Corey Erdman and Morgan Campbell here outside of the Air Canada Centre, where we just announced the September 11th Spike TV show featuring Adonis Stevenson and Tommy Carpensi. But the next day, it was just announced last night that Floyd Mayweather will officially be fighting Andre Berto. Morgan, this is the fight that we expected to be announced, but I suppose for most people, that doesn't take away any of the disappointment that comes along with the fight being officially announced.
Well, the first thing, there's naturally going to be disappointment because Mayweather just came off the biggest fight ever. So there's no way you can equal that, surpass it. The next fight naturally is going to be a drop-off. It doesn't matter if Mayweather fights Berto, Kell Brook, Amir Khan, Keith Thurman. It doesn't matter. It's going to be a drop-off. But to Berto specifically, I could see people have a point because I think he's 3-2 in his last 5 fights. It's not like he brings a stellar resume into this, but if you're Mayweather, that's kind of the point.
I think for the general public, though, as you just alluded to, no matter who this was, whether it was Amir Khan, whether it was Keith Thurman, whether it was Danny Garcia, all of them were going to seem like a disappointment. And so to kind of play devil's advocate, now you've seen Floyd Mayweather beat the guy you've asked him to fight forever. Anything after that, I guess, is a step down.
Well, let's remember what pro football was 5-6 years ago, where you had the Pro Bowl the week after the Super Bowl, and that's basically what this is. No matter how big the Pro Bowl is going to be, it's going to be a disappointment after the Super Bowl, because the Super Bowl is the Super Bowl. You don't have the Super Bowl 2 weeks in a row. So Mayweather's fight with Berto, that's the Pro Bowl circa 2006. It's the drop off. It's the swan song. It's not what the Super Bowl is, but it's not supposed to be.
Well, I think the big question is whether or not they can actually make money on this pay-per-view, Morgan, and I think for 2 reasons. Number one, because there are some hardcore boxing fans out there who might not even buy this because it's Andre Berto. That's number one. But the bigger problem is that being a fan of Floyd Mayweather is slowly becoming the same thing as watching The Cosby Show, as wearing a Ray Rice jersey, as wearing a Hulk Hogan t-shirt around. It's that kind of stigma that's attached to Floyd Mayweather's name right now.
And I don't know if the plan is to make money on this or if the plan is just to lose as little money as possible. Because what happened with the Pacquiao fight is that they made more money on that fight, more pay-per-view buys at a higher rate than even they dreamed. So I think the plan right now is to lose as little money on this fight as possible to keep from eating into the Manny Pacquiao profits.
Now, the undercard was semi-officially announced along with this as well. Orlando Salido taking on Rocky Martinez in a rematch of their possible fight of the year from this year. George Groves and Badu Jack will be on the undercard, as well as Ishe Smith and Vanas Martirosyan. Not a bad undercard at all, but Morgan, as you and I have discussed on the air many times, the undercard doesn't sell the general public because the undercard still doesn't know who Badu Jack is, even if that is a world title fight. So I still don't think that helps this pay-per-view out. It makes me happier as a hardcore boxing fan, but it doesn't do too much for the general public.
Well, no, because the general public knows the people that are in the main event, and they're going to, as evidenced by Mayweather-Pacquiao, that undercard wasn't overwhelming, but the fight sold what it sold because of the 2 people in the main event. So if you're going to stack the undercard, it's to reward the hardcore boxing fans that are going to stick with you and buy this fight anyway. But yeah, the strength of the undercard here doesn't make a difference one way or the other. You know, and they learned that with the first Marcos Maidana fight, where they put on probably the most expensive undercard ever, and that event still didn't really sell. I want to say they did about 900,000 pay-per-views, only because people didn't really know who Marcos Maidana was at the time.
I think the major question for me heading into this fight, Morgan, does Andre Berto come out with the shoulder roll against the master of the shoulder roll?
I don't think it happens. Andre Berto's problem is going to be, again, solving the puzzle when Andre Berto's history shows that even though he's fast and he's powerful, he's not overly creative on offense or on defense. And so Andre Berto's got a month to figure out how to make that happen.
All right, it is September 12th. It will be at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, Nevada. Floyd Mayweather taking on Andre Berto.